Single dad saves a stranger in the snow. She's the billionaire. The snow came fast, furious, and without mercy. Liam Turner, a ski patrolman and single father, was chopping wood behind his remote mountain cabin when the wind shifted. Dark clouds rolled in like a warning. He hurried inside, brushing snow from his jacket, and checked on his daughter Rosie, who sat bundled by the fireplace, coloring a picture of a fox. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps on the wooden door. Liam froze. No one ever came up this far, especially not during a blizzard. Opening the door cautiously, he found a woman standing there, half buried in snow. Her coat, once expensive-looking, was soaked through. Her lips were blue. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I'm sorry," she said, voice trembling. "My van skidded off the road. I have nowhere else to go." Liam hesitated. He looked past her to the road, now barely visible in the storm. His daughter's voice rang out behind him. "Daddy, who is it?" He turned back to the woman. Her eyes were wide, pleading, but guarded too. "You can stay," he said, his voice gruff, "but only in the mudroom." She nodded quickly. "Thank you, truly." He stepped aside. She entered, leaving a trail of melting snow. "What's your name?" he asked. A pause. Then, "Call me Cammy." Liam brought out an old blanket and handed it to her without a word. Cammy wrapped it around her shoulders, still shivering as she sat stiffly on the wooden bench in the mudroom. The wind screamed outside like a wild animal. The only light came from a lantern hanging on a nail, casting shadows across the snow-streaked floor. "I'll bring you something warm," Liam muttered before walking back into the main house. Inside, Rosie peeked around the doorway, eyes wide. "Is she okay?" "She's just cold," Liam replied. "Don't worry." Rosie nodded solemnly and returned to her drawing. Cammy sat silently, listening to the crackle of fire through the wall. Her fingers curled tighter around the blanket. The mudroom was dry but drafty, with hiking boots lined along one wall and a small cot folded in the corner. She didn't ask for more. She seemed used to taking only what she was given. When Liam returned with a steaming mug of chamomile tea, she whispered a soft "thank you" and took it with both hands. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "You're lucky you found this place," he said. She gave a tired smile. "Lucky isn't the word I'd use today." They stood in silence for a moment, the storm roaring around them. "I'll check your van in the morning," Liam said. "You're not going anywhere tonight." "I'm not trying to," Cammy replied softly. "Not anymore." By morning, the storm had softened to a gentle hush, snowflakes drifting lazily through the gray dawn. Cammy was already awake, sitting on the bench with the same blanket wrapped around her, staring out the foggy window. Her eyes looked distant, as though she were watching something far beyond the pines. Liam opened the door with a quiet creak, a steaming mug in each hand. "Coffee?" he asked. She nodded, grateful. "You didn't have to." "I didn't have to let you in either," he said with a faint smirk. That earned a small smile. "Fair enough." In the kitchen, Rosie was busy pouring cereal into 3 mismatched bowls. "Is the lady eating with us?" she asked. Liam hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just this once." Minutes later, Cammy stepped hesitantly into the small, rustic kitchen. The walls were lined with family photos and maps of the surrounding trails. Rosie beamed up at her. "You can sit next to me." Cammy blinked. "Thank you, sweetheart." Breakfast was quiet at first. Cammy listened more than she spoke, but there was a softness in her movements as she helped Rosie reach the jam or wiped a milk spill with practiced ease. Later, while Liam bundled up to check the van, he glanced back through the frosted window. Cammy was laughing, actually laughing, as Rosie tried to show her how to fold a paper fox. It was the first real emotion he'd seen from her, and for the first time Liam wondered, who exactly was this woman sleeping in his mudroom? The van was a mess. One front tire buried deep in the snowbank, the engine silent and cold. Liam popped the hood and stared at the damage. Belts loose. Battery nearly frozen. It would take time, days maybe, before it ran again, if it ever did. Back inside, Cammy stood at the sink, sleeves rolled up, helping Rosie rinse out their cereal bowls like it was the most natural thing in the world. She moved gracefully, but not like someone used to cabins and firewood, more like someone pretending she belonged, and doing a convincing job. "You don't strike me as someone who camps a lot," Liam said as he walked in, brushing snow from his coat. Cammy glanced over. "What gave me away?" "Your boots are brand new. Van's not stocked for a trip. And you folded that blanket tighter than any guest I've had. Like someone used to hotels, not trailheads." She didn't deny it. Instead, she reached for a towel. "I guess I'm better at pretending than I thought." Liam watched her a moment. "Engine's dead. Battery's no good. You're stuck here a while." She nodded. "I understand." "Look," he sighed, "Rosie likes you. You're helping out. You're not trouble. I've got an old cot I can set up in the corner room. It's warmer than the mudroom." Cammy turned, surprised. "You sure?" "No," he said, "but I'm doing it anyway." She smiled, softer this time. "Thank you, Liam." As Rosie skipped off to find more paper for her origami zoo, Liam caught a glimpse of something in Cammy's eyes, something deeper than gratitude, something like guilt or grief. Whatever she was running from, it wasn't just the storm. The attic wasn't much. Just a crawl space above the kitchen with old boxes, forgotten snow gear, and stacks of magazines Liam had meant to throw out years ago. Rosie loved it. That afternoon, while Liam worked on the van again and Cammy read quietly by the fire, Rosie clambered up the wooden ladder with a flashlight in hand and an explorer's grin. "I'm going on an adventure," she declared. "Be careful," Liam called after her. "No stepping past the beams." "I know." For a while, everything was peaceful. Snow melting on the roof, the scent of wood smoke and tea in the air. Cammy flipped through a worn copy of Call of the Wild, her fingers running slowly across the pages. Then, Rosie's voice rang out. "Daddy, look what I found." Liam stood up, frowning. Rosie came racing down the ladder, waving a glossy magazine in her hand like treasure. "It's her," she said, breathless. "It's Cammy." Cammy sat up, her smile fading. Liam took the magazine from Rosie's hands. The cover was unmistakable. Mountain Lux Quarterly. Camille Drake, the queen of alpine luxury. There she was, hair swept back, eyes sharp and proud, posing in front of a five-star resort with the same smile she now tried to hide. Pochuk. Liam looked up slowly. Camille was frozen in place. "You want to explain this?" he asked, voice quiet but hard. Camille didn't blink. She set the book aside, stood, and whispered, "I was hoping you wouldn't find out this way." Camille sat on the edge of the armchair, her shoulders tight, hands clasped in her lap. The fire cracked and popped in the silence, but neither she nor Liam looked at it. He held the magazine loosely, the cover bent under his thumb. "So," he said finally, "you're Camille Drake, the same one who used to run those luxury mountain resorts?" She nodded once. "Yes, the same Camille Drake who laid off half the ski patrol staff last year when you shut down Grey Peak Lodge?" Her eyes flinched. "That wasn't my decision. At least, not entirely." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Then help me understand. Because right now, it feels like the woman my daughter's calling a friend is the same one who got me fired." Camille inhaled slowly, as if bracing for impact. "I started the company from scratch when I was 27. I worked non-stop, built resorts from the ground up. We were expanding, fast. Then came the embezzlement. My CFO, my ex-fiancé, funneled millions out from under me. When I confronted him, he flipped the narrative, said I was in on it." Liam said nothing. The board turned. Investors panicked. My name was on every headline. I lost everything in weeks. She looked up, voice cracking. "I didn't steal anything, Liam. But when the storm came, I didn't fight it. I ran. And ended up here." She nodded. "Your cabin looked safe. I didn't plan any of this." Liam stared at her a long time. Then he stood, walked to the window, and stared out at the darkening snow. Rosie's laughter echoed faintly from the loft above. "You could have told me," he said without turning. "Would you have let me stay?" she asked. He didn't answer. The next morning, Liam didn't mention the magazine. He just handed Camille a mug of black coffee and motioned toward the porch, where snow was melting off the roof in soft plinks. The silence between them wasn't cold, it was cautious, like two people standing on opposite edges of the same truth, unsure of how to meet in the middle. Camille sipped her coffee with both hands. "I'll leave once the van's running," she said quietly. "You don't have to," Liam replied, not looking at her. "Rosie would miss you." "And you?" she asked, a trace of nervous humor in her voice. Liam didn't smile. "I'm still working on that answer." Later, he knelt beside the van, sleeves rolled up, hands deep in grease. Camille watched him from the steps, hugging her coat close. She could have offered money, could have pulled out a card and ended the struggle in seconds. But she didn't. He wouldn't have taken it. Instead, she offered something rarer: time. While Liam worked, she helped Rosie build a snow fort. She swept the porch, patched a curtain. In the evenings, she read stories by the fire, her voice calm and confident, like someone who once commanded boardrooms and press conferences. But when she smiled at Rosie, it wasn't performance. It was real. That night, as Rosie slept on the couch with a stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm, Liam handed Camille a glass of cider and sat beside her at the fire. "You're not who I expected," he said. She looked at him, eyes tired but steady. "Neither are you." And in that quiet cabin, surrounded by melting snow and second chances, two people who had lost everything began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, not everything that's lost is broken. The days unfolded like a quiet rhythm, snow melting slowly into spring. Camille stopped counting how long she'd stayed. The van sat idle under a tarp, still half fixed, but no one spoke of finishing the job. Something unspoken had shifted. She wasn't a guest anymore. She was part of the routine. Each morning began with pancakes and Rosie's chatter. Camille learned how Liam liked his coffee. Strong, no sugar. She learned where Rosie hid her drawings and which songs helped her fall asleep. In return, she taught Rosie how to braid hair, how to sew buttons, and how to fold napkins into swans. She also taught Liam how to laugh again. One afternoon, while Rosie built a snow bunny in the yard, Camille joined Liam by the fire pit out back. He was sanding down a broken sled, hands steady, movements sure. "You used to do this before?" she asked. He nodded. "Engineering school, mechanical design, left it when Rosie came along." Camille studied him. "You could have built anything." He shrugged. "I did. I built her life." She didn't speak, just sat beside him, close enough to feel the warmth of his honesty. In the evenings, they read by lamplight. One night, Camille traced lines in her old sketchbook and let Rosie add doodles in the margins. The pages filled with capes and crowns, bunny heroes, and woodland castles. And Liam watched them, one lost woman, one bright-eyed girl, and felt, for the first time in years, like home had returned to him. It wasn't grand, it wasn't planned, but it was theirs. Camille never unpacked fully. Her suitcase remained by the door, zipped and quiet, like a reminder that this wasn't meant to last. And yet, every day, she borrowed a little more space, a sweater in the hallway hook, a teacup in the sink, a smile lingering longer over breakfast. One evening, Liam found her standing on the porch, barefoot in the dusk, watching Rosie chase fireflies across the snowy yard that hadn't fully thawed. The cold didn't seem to bother her. "You're gonna catch a cold," he said, leaning against the doorframe. Camille looked over her shoulder, eyes soft. "It's the first time in years I've stood still long enough to notice the air." He joined her, shoulder to shoulder, silence stretching like a warm blanket between them. "You thinking of leaving?" he asked. "I used to think I had to," she admitted. "Pack light, run fast, be useful or be gone." "And now?" Camille watched Rosie fall into the snow, giggling. "Now I think love doesn't need a suitcase." Liam turned to her. "And what does it need?" She looked at him. Really looked. "A reason to stay." He didn't say anything, but his hand brushed against hers on the porch rail. She didn't pull away. Inside, the fire crackled, dinner waited, and the girl who had unknowingly stitched their hearts together was already setting the table. Humming a song Camille had taught her. It wasn't the life she'd built before, but maybe this one was built better, not on wealth or walls, but on warmth. It happened at the winter market. Camille had gone with Liam and Rosie, bundled in a scarf she'd knitted with Rosie by the fire. They bought honey and apples, sampled spiced cider, and laughed together under twinkling lights. She was unrecognizable, or so she thought. A woman in a red coat took a photo from across the vendor's stalls. Camille didn't see it, didn't feel the lens focus, but the camera caught everything. Her smiling as she handed Rosie a caramel apple, Liam laughing beside them. By morning, the photo was viral. Camille Drake spotted in snowy small town, fashion queen turned mystery mom, runaway CEO living with single dad? From penthouse to pine needles, Camille's secret life? Liam heard the cars before he saw them, 3, then 5, then a van with tinted windows, reporters, paparazzi. They flooded the gravel road like vultures. He stepped outside, shielding his eyes from camera flashes. "Get off my property!" he shouted. But the questions came like a hailstorm. "Camille, are you living here? Are you dating him? Do you still own shares in Drake Resorts? Is the child yours?" Inside, Rosie cried and clung to Camille, who stood frozen in the hallway, color drained from her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I never meant for this to happen." Liam didn't respond. His jaw was tight, but his fury wasn't at her. It was at the cameras. The noise. The invasion. "We have to get them away," he said. Camille nodded, but in her eyes, Liam saw it. The decision had already been made. That night, as the moon rose over the snow-blanketed trees, Camille quietly began to pack. Camille folded each item with care, her movement slow, deliberate. The suitcase that had sat by the door, untouched for weeks, was open again, like a wound. She didn't cry, not when she packed her sketchbook, or when she gently rolled Rosie's drawings into a scroll to keep safe. But her hands trembled when she reached for the scarf Rosie had given her. She held it to her chest, breathed in the faint scent of smoke and cinnamon, and closed her eyes. Liam stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. "You don't have to go," he said, voice low. "Yes, I do," she whispered. "You didn't ask for this." "No," Camille said, but Rosie didn't ask for her home to become a headline either. As she stepped outside, suitcase in hand, the cold bit harder than usual. Her van sat in silence near the trees. Liam had fixed it days ago. She hadn't planned to use it. Until now. At the bottom of the porch steps stood Rosie, barefoot in pajamas, her cheeks wet with tears. "Where are you going?" she asked, voice breaking. Camille knelt, arms wide. Rosie flew into her like a storm. "You don't have to be famous," Rosie sobbed. "I don't need a famous mom. I just need you." Camille held her, heart cracking. "I'll always be your Cammy," she whispered, "even if I'm far away." Liam stepped down, placing a hand on Camille's shoulder. "You gave us more than you know," he said. "You fixed more than that van." She looked up at him, tears finally falling. "And you taught me love doesn't need noise." The van rolled slowly down the snowy drive. And for the first time since her world collapsed, Camille Drake cried. Not because she was leaving something behind, but because she'd finally found something she wasn't ready to lose. The lights were cold, the studio silent. Camille sat across from one of the most respected interviewers in the country, dressed simply. Soft gray sweater, no makeup, hair tucked behind her ears. The countdown blinked red. 3, 2, 1. We're live. "Camille Drake," the host began, voice measured. "Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me," she said, steady but soft. The questions came carefully. Where had she been? Why did she disappear? What really happened behind the closed doors of her empire? Camille answered them all. Honestly, "I was betrayed by someone I trusted. The board panicked, the media fed the fire. I lost everything, except myself. But even that took time to find again." The interviewer leaned in. Where did you go? Camille paused. I ended up somewhere I never planned to be. A snow-covered cabin. A man and his daughter took me in. They didn't know who I was. They didn't care. She looked into the camera, her eyes clear. They showed me what love looks like when it's quiet, when it asks nothing, when it stays. And now, the host asked, are you going back to fashion? Camille shook her head. I've filed to dissolve Drake Resorts, effective immediately. Gasps echoed across social media. I'm starting over. Every dollar I have, every patent, every property, it's going into the Rosie Foundation, a nonprofit to support single parents, small-town families, and children like the girl who reminded me what really matters. In a green room thousands of miles away, Liam held Rosie's hand as they watched. When the segment ended, Camille met them backstage. Rosie ran into her arms. Liam stepped close, quiet. You didn't just fix your story, he said. You rewrote ours too. Camille smiled through tears. And you showed me how. Spring came slow and tender to the mountains. There, snow melted into streams. Wildflowers crept up through thawed earth. And just down the slope from Liam's cabin, a new one was being built, smaller, cozier, with wide windows and a deep blue door. Camille never returned to her penthouse, never reclaimed the office or the headlines. Instead, she reclaimed something better. Herself. She moved into the new cabin, just a stone's throw from Liam and Rosie. Close enough to share dinners, lazy afternoons, and stories by the fire. The trail between the two homes quickly became well-worn by bare feet, muddy boots, and a little girl who now had two places to call home. With the Rosie Foundation's first grant, they transformed an old ski barn at the edge of town into a community center. Liam taught basic mechanics to single dads and teens, how to fix snowblowers, patch leaky roofs, change a tire with nothing but patience and duct tape. Camille ran creativity workshops for kids, sketching, storytelling, sewing dreams into scraps of fabric. And the van, the same one that broke down that stormy night, was repurposed too. Painted bright yellow with vines and stars, it sat under a maple tree behind the center, filled with books and blankets. Children called it the cozy camper. Every afternoon, Camille read to them there. Sometimes Rosie joined, curled under her arm like she always had. Satwakumsri. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't newsworthy. Tad. But it was real. And when neighbors asked, "So you used to be someone big?" Camille just smiled and said, "I still am, just in a smaller, better way." Late one afternoon, Camille stood in the garden with Rosie, pulling weeds between rows of stubborn carrots. The air smelled of soil and sun. Liam watched from the porch, guitar on his lap, fingers picking at soft chords. "Do you think plants know who loves them?" Rosie asked. Camille smiled. "I think they do." That evening, Rosie came home from school with a paper clutched in both hands. "It's my writing assignment," she said shyly. "We had to write about someone who changed our life." Camille read it aloud by lamplight. "My mom didn't give birth to me, but she gives me hugs and songs and pancakes. She listens when I'm sad. She makes me laugh. She makes me brave. Some moms are born with you. Some are found. I found mine in the snow." Camille's breath caught. Liam placed a hand on her shoulder. Neither of them said a word. They didn't need to. Moss. That night, after Rosie fell asleep, Camille and Liam sat on the porch, wrapped in a shared blanket, the stars scattered like ash across the night sky. "You were never just a CEO," he said. Camille rested her head on his shoulder. "No," she whispered. "I was just waiting to become the person I was meant to be." And she had, not in a boardroom, not on a cover, not on a runway, but in a cabin where the tea boiled slowly, the laughter came freely, and love asked for nothing but truth. A woman once known by the world as Camille Drake had become something more. Mulva after came, Mulva after came ball, Mulva after came, Mulva after came, a mother, a builder of second chances, and finally, someone who wasn't running anymore. She was home. If this story moved you, reminded you that healing is real, or renewed your belief in second chances, we invite you to subscribe to Healing Stories. Here, we share real-life journeys of strength, love, and hope. Stories that speak straight to the soul. Thank you for being here. And always remember, no matter how far you fall, there's always a way back to the light. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and let us know.